Objecting to a proposed new law that would give news organisations greater power to negotiate fees for content shared on Facebook. This is the social giant social media giant, should I say, Meta, has threatened to remove news content from Facebook in the United States. Now, the Meta spokesperson, Andy Stone, has been tweeting. He says, if Congress passes an ill-considered journalism bill as part of national security legislation, we will be forced to consider removing news from our platform altogether. So the US legislation is part of a larger set of laws aimed at tackling the dominance of big tech. And I'm joined now by Christina Criddle, who is technology correspondent for the Financial Times in London. I think this will be a story some people might remember something similar in Australia, but why don't you explain it to our viewers about what exactly is at stake and what is Meta concerned about?
In Australia as well, governments want news organisations to be able to take some of the ad revenue that Meta generates on its platforms. Meta has been very resistant to this. In Australia, it did temporarily remove news from the platform, but now over there, it has signed up for a deal with various news outlets, as well as Alphabet, which owns Google, has done that as well. So now those specific news outlets will receive some financial compensation for hosting content on Meta.
And so would we expect something similar in the United States?
There has been quite a big pushback from Andy Stone, as you mentioned. He says that no company should be forced to pay for content that its users don't want to see and that doesn't drive meaningful revenue. And this comes at a time when Meta is really struggling. There's a general decline in advertising budgets around the world due to the economic headwinds that we're seeing at the moment. And that's meant that Meta has falling revenues. It's also seen falling growth in terms of its users because of fierce competition from some rivals like TikTok. So it's in quite a precarious place at the moment financially, and this could be another hit to its revenues.
You know, one of the arguments I saw that Meta was making, that they feel they give voice or publicity to some smaller news organisations or perhaps ones that mightn't be found by such a wide range of users. Is it possible to know where the balance of power lies?
I think it can be hard to find that out without seeing the exact viewing figures from Meta about who's engaging with what, and then also seeing what's happening behind Meta's algorithms that are prioritizing what posts should be viewed over others. It's clear that most news organizations are expected to have a presence on social media, and they believe that they should be able to take some of that revenue from those views. News organizations are also struggling in terms of advertising revenue, all those things that are hitting social media platforms. So they are also trying to get a bigger chunk of the money too.
Is it possible, Christina, briefly, to, I suppose, know as well the impact that Facebook has in disseminating the news? I mean, really, the influence that they have, I suppose, with algorithms of what news stories might pop up to what audience. We were just covering, for example, a few minutes ago, the US Senate race in Georgia.
There's a huge amount of talk about what social media platforms can do in terms of disseminating news and making sure that the news that they disseminate is accurate. A lot of people get their sources of news from social media, and not just Meta. You're looking at TikTok as well, Twitter, and they all have concerns around the accuracy of content on their platforms and also how content on their platforms is promoted too. There are several regulations coming in across the world now. It feels like a bit of a reckoning for big tech. You have the online safety bill being debated in the UK at the moment. That will compel platforms to control the types of content on their platforms. And also you see the DSA in the EU as well, which is trying to do this too. So there's a lot of discussion around how these algorithms work and what they do. Hopefully those regulations will help to shed some light on that.